before starting your like True Lead Generation, which is basically a digital marketing agency, right?
Yes, sir.
What kind of led up to those events of starting that business? Like what made you go into entrepreneurship?
Well, I started in entrepreneurship back in high school. I was a rising junior, or going from sophomore year to my junior year of high school, and I decided to just learn about business. The best way that I could think of was to
Mm-hmm.
start a basic business. So something very simple at the time for me to wrap my head around with no prior knowledge was just flipping t-shirts, just creating a brand, and going around my high school, skipping class and selling teas. And that was kind of it. And I definitely had a lot of joy in doing that. So that was what sparked it for me. And being a creative guy, I like being able to express myself creatively through entrepreneurship. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that was my start.
And so once you hit senior year, did you kind of have a decision to make, like either go all in entrepreneurship or go full time in school, or a bit of
Well,
both maybe?
yeah, well, I was lucky to have uh, a teacher in my junior year of high school that taught me in business law, and she had recommended Mercy College, the business honors program, which is where I met Lex. And it's a very small program in Westchester that they focus on getting you real life experience versus more academia focused. So
Mm-hmm.
grades weren't that important. It was more focused on sharpening your emotional intelligence, your communication skills. So this was all very interesting to me and intriguing, because obviously I didn't want to sit in a lecture hall learning about, you know, uh, capital markets by looking at graphs. I wanted to be able to communicate with people in the business. And so just north of New York City, it was a great spot. You know, being a local guy from Long Island, I figured that would be a good thing to do, is to focus on building a business part-time, but also getting my education. I was also very fortunate, not to digress too much, but had enough credits where I went into college as a sophomore. So I figured it would have been a squandered opportunity if I opted out of school, when I could have just gotten my degree in 3 years, which is what I wound up doing. I just got a quick degree in finance. It took me 3 years, and now I'm a full-time entrepreneur.
Okay, so once you graduated, that's when you really dove into entrepreneurship, right?
Not necessarily. My sophomore year of college, I was dabbling in e-commerce, and I moved down to South Florida, took all of my school online. But all throughout college, I've been an entrepreneur. I think that a lot of people think to be successful in entrepreneurship or in anything, you need to completely immerse yourself in it. But for me, there's a great balance between focusing on school, self-educating, and a lot of people think that self-educating needs to be reading and whatnot, but especially at Mercy, we found ourselves in a great program. We were able to do a lot of networking and meeting people. So being at school, you know, contrary to most entrepreneurs that either say, it's either school or entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
I think that school in a lot of ways helped, um, I guess, set me up for success in entrepreneurship, because of the sheer amount of people that I met and the lessons that I learned, in the classroom and just in general.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really always demonize school. You know, everyone always talks about like how bad school is, but in your case in point, you do meet people. You can create startups. Certainly, when I went to school, a lot of people, like I'm an electrical engineer, right? And my senior year, a lot of people did like senior design projects. Everyone had to do that no matter what, right? And a lot of those groups that were formed up, I think they actually ended up staying and creating their own business, right? And it was through the school system, that they were able to, make startups, right? And
Yeah.
I think that would be very difficult not to have that through the school, because sometimes the school will help you fund that as well, right?
Yeah.
And you can't always demonize school, and there's always a different like perspective on things, right?
Definitely. I think you're absolutely right about that, especially now. People are very quick to demonize school, but I think that anything that you do should be looked at as an opportunity. Like Lex and I talk about it all the time. Like when you wake up in the morning, instead of saying I have to go to work, I have to go to class, you should start saying I get to take on the day, I get to go to work, I get to go to class and learn. And like especially with school, just because there are a lot of issues in public education, especially middle school and high school level. But when you get to college, I think that people expect that high school to college to translate similarly, but most of the professors that we've had, and I think you could speak on this too, is like they're very, very mature about like us being adults and wanting to take our talents and our skill set outside of the classroom and immerse it into real world. Like, for example, like what you're doing with like graphic design and stuff. If you want to talk about that too, like.
So I'm currently interning as a graphic designer, but I also do some content creating on the side, and just having that opportunity where I can have some time during the school week to do that, but also to add on with being able to take school seriously. I definitely think with COVID and everything, people have become more appreciative. Going from that online perspective, or going from that in-person perspective to now going online, you get to really appreciate that time that you had being able to be face-to-face with your professors, and now that you have that limited amount of time.
Yeah, I think as long as you're treated as an adult, like at least especially for like us younger folks, like that will make us the happiest people in the world. You know, if you're taken seriously, and with the information online, it's not about how old you are, it's about how much information you actually know and can utilize. You know, like you gotta take literally everyone seriously, because the playing field is even now. You know, all the information's online. You can learn literally anything. And that's why you see people on social media, on TikTok, like they're just killing it because they're just willing to learn a certain subject, and they kind of specialize it for years and years, and they become, you know, pretty much an authoritative figure, even if they're so young.
Yeah, and I think also just to jump in there too on that train of thought is like a lot of the people that have been demonizing school and like their situation, they haven't, I mean, obviously I don't know everybody that's demonizing it and like what their point of views are, but a lot of the people that I hear, they haven't necessarily earned the right to be treated like an adult because they're still like very immature. And so I think that especially with our generation, like you need to realize that you're not owed anything. And if you want to be treated like an adult at school, even as a high school student, you can be treated like an adult if you start acting like an adult and becoming an adult and being mature with everything. I think that your output directly reflects your input with anything that you do. So we walk around school and, you know, we're both young. She's 19, I'm 21, but we get treated like adults because we carry ourselves like we're 28 years old.
Mm-hmm. So, and do you think when you guys started True Lead Generation, you know, you have to put on your business hat, obviously, did that make you a lot more mature?
Sure. And I think that credentials are a great way of opening up a conversation, but it's not the end all be all. It's almost like with degrees. I mean, Elon Musk has even said that degrees are a great indication of somebody's capability, but it's not the end all be all. I think that whether we own a business or not, you know, we still carry ourselves the way that we do, even if you're, you know, at square one or you're a multimillionaire, you know, financially free, whatever it is, you just have to act like you're successful at all times and play the part, and things will start to manifest into your life, however you perceive your life. Really.
I also think one thing is we know plenty of people who graduated and got a massive corporate job, and that's something that he took the other side of the road. And so I think you should maybe like touch on that. Is like it was looked at almost like as foreign, the way he took that approach opposed to other people.
Yeah, and what she's referring to is, I mean, at our program, the common route is to be able to leverage the connections that you make and get your foot in the door, in the corporate door. But I really honed in on my passions early on and realized that it's okay that I like finance and that I like accounting, but I don't like corporate finance and corporate accounting. Mm-hmm. And taking that idea that I love business, but corporate is not the only answer. And going after entrepreneurship, I think was very important for my personal health, my mental health. And that's something that you know, any podcast that I come on, I always try and talk about that because it was a very pivotal moment in my life where once you commit to a corporate lifestyle, it's a lot harder than people think to be able to get out of it. And vice versa too. But I think it's about taking everything that people have to say with a grain of salt and really doing what makes you happy. And the best way to do that is just by tasting as much as possible, you know, taking internships while you're young, make literally as simple as taking out a piece of paper and drawing a T-chart and writing what you like, what you don't like, and looking at it. And then the next thing that you do, take everything into consideration. And then over time, you start to get an idea and you start to find yourself. Really what internships and like all that, you know, tasting in the beginning when you're young is just self-discovery. And I think that more people need to follow their gut, and that will help them out in the long run for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I actually made like I got a piece of paper and I wrote down all my passions and strong interests, right? And of course, you can easily lie to yourself like, hey, I got a really strong, like, I got a passion for this. And I thought that I had a really strong passion for for art, for like pop art, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so do you know how you can do a print on demand service? You can get a canvas, you know, get a freelancer and they can drop the art for you. I was going to do all that. I actually had the artwork and it was down to like marketing, right? But I realized like 3 months into this project, I was like, I'm not really extremely happy about this, right? And then I literally just dropped it like a month after, because I wasn't happy, you know, running that business idea. And before that, like, I wanted to try digital marketing, and I thought it was cool running Facebook ads, talking to people, because I thought that's what business is all about. You know, I mean, it is talking to a lot of people, creating networks, and, you know, running ads. I thought that was really cool. But I realized, like, at least for what I was doing with my brother at the time, was we did a lot of filming. He did the filming and I was trying to run the Facebook ads. And again, I wasn't happy, and I thought it was a strong interest. So two of those passions were not really passions. And then I realized, hey, I like entrepreneurship in general. You know, it's a really strong passion. I've been reading books, and that's why I kind of started this, and I've been like stuck to it for a while now. And that's why I'm like, I feel more passionate about this project. And I think that's why I'm going to do it for a very, very long term. So to your point, if you kind of write down things that you love and then experiment on that, or take internships, you kind of learn about yourself, what you don't like and what you do like, because you can easily trick yourself.
Yeah. And I think that that's like, I'm really happy to hear that that's been your path, because I think for a lot of people, they look at quitting in a very negative way. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with quitting. You just have to make sure that when you step away from something that you're learning from it. So like, you think about very early on in people's lives, like most of the time, like, most kids will play like soccer, lacrosse, baseball, football, you know, basketball, whatever. And then as they get older, they zero in on one thing. And it's because they realize that they like basketball more than they like baseball. But when you quit baseball, you can't just chalk it up to, I don't like baseball. What was it about baseball that you don't like? Is it the pace of the game? Is it, you know, being outside versus indoors on a court? You have to be able to analyze what it is. What did you not like about the pop art business? Was it the art? Was it the marketing? Was it the, you know, inventory? Or was it entrepreneurship in general? And you have to be able to look at that when you take action and move forward with those, you know, with that knowledge in mind. And that's the most important thing for people, I think.
Yeah, kind of finding like the root cause of what it was exactly.
Exactly.
But now leading up to, you know, when did you kind of create, like, talking about your marketing agency, Truly Generation, when was that made, and like, why did you kind of want to create it? I know you said you were really into entrepreneurship, but what was like the pinnacle or the core reason why you wanted to go into a service business instead of, you know, doing more e-commerce?
Sure. Yeah. I worked at an e-commerce consultancy for a year and a half in South Florida. And I worked with tons of clients. I took thousands of phone calls, and I had a blast. But the one thing that I loved about that was that our product was marketing. So business owners came to us, online business owners, and they said, I have a business and I need help. And we would basically take control of their ads and help them out. But the one thing that I wasn't too keen on was that all of these businesses were just digital, for the most part, drop shipping companies. So it was a lot of people coming to us and with crap products. They're selling broken lights, like just not really doing their due diligence and checking the suppliers that they're sourcing these products from. And so it was a lot of like phony business, a lot of phony deals going on where it was, and we were succeeding. We were making people tons and tons of money with really, really crappy stores. And when you have family members and friends that are buying these $30 to $70 products online and they're not satisfied, and they, you realize that, oh my gosh, all these hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars of sales that we're doing are actually like, there's people on the other side that are not satisfied with these products. It starts to drain you out mentally. So I took what I really liked about it and said, I love, the marketing aspect of it. I love businesses and online presence, talking about listings, reputation, SEO, whatever it may be, even web builds, whatever it is. And I decided to go back to traditional businesses, brick and mortar, coffee shops, bars, bagel shops, whatever it is, pizzerias, and helping them out with local marketing. So that's when I moved from South Florida back to New York to finish my senior year of college in September of 2019 at this point. So 13 months ago, I started the company. And yeah, like the first 8 months of it was just building the product, making sure that all the sourcing and suppliers were in place, and then building out a team and starting to bring on clients.
Damn. So it's good that you had that initial experience before you started your own agency. I always feel that the hardest part is, getting your very, very first client. So when you moved back to New York, did you did cold calls, cold emails? Did you cold walk-ins? I don't know. Like, what did you do to get your first couple clients?
You got to do everything, man. Even messenger pigeons, if that's what it takes. You got to, when you have no clients and you're starting at square one, you got to get super creative. And as a salesperson at a multi-million-dollar firm where these leads are being handed to you, and every single day you wake up with a full calendar from 9 to 9 of people that want to buy your product, you can get very comfortable in thinking that, this is how all businesses are. But then when you start your own business and nobody knows what true lead generation is, and you're sitting there and you're looking at your calendar and you're just like, oh man, I thought it was a lot easier than this. That's when you gotta, literally what you said, you gotta put on your nicest suit. You gotta look at Apple Maps and you gotta say, I'm gonna walk down and walk into these 30 companies, business cards, networking events, obviously before the lockdown. But cold calls. And then, I like to, whenever I start off a venture, which has only been 3 or 4 times in my life, you got to start with your roots, reach out to, I used to be a busboy when I was 16 years old. That was one of the first business owners that I reached out to at a Mexican restaurant, and help them out with some stuff, help them out with some branding, whatever it is. Professors, mentors, anything that you could do to get your foot in the door, because a lot of sales is just relationship building. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best product in the world, but if you have a relationship with somebody and they trust you, and you are confident that you could do a good job and an ethical, business deal where you're not just scamming the person and you can maintain your reputation, do a good job and then get referrals. That's a great way of doing it too. But you really gotta, I always, in my mind, you just got to put some elbow grease into it. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, get scrappy, Yeah.
Dean and I were talking the other day. It was so funny. He was telling me his experiences, going in with cold calls and just going into places. And one thing that I really admire is he doesn't really get too discouraged. There's times where he's told me it wasn't a good one. The owner was just a total jerk. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. You can elaborate.
But people have literally told me to go F myself and whatever. You just got to keep a smile on your face. So just not being
afraid, I guess. And everything's the learning lesson, so just applying that for the next time.
Yeah. And what Lex is saying, the thing that I tell Lex about everything is that you have to have the mindset of number one, positive outcomes, also known as closes, or if you're applying to jobs, full-time offers, whatever the positive outcome is always going to be the minority. So if I call up a list of 100 contacts, I have to have the mindset of, every single call that I get on, you have to be positive and you have to be confident that you can close them. But at the end of the day, if you call up 100 contacts, you have to expect 97 of them, no matter how good of a salesperson you are, how good of a communicator you are, how good of a product you have, 97 of them will say no. But the thing that will make you win is just the law of large numbers. If I am selling broken phones and I reach out to 1 million people, literally 1 million people, one of them has to buy it. And so it's just a game of like hustling and being able to prospect relentlessly and tirelessly and not, like Lex said, don't get discouraged at all, because 99% of the people will say that no, and it's hard to hear that over and over, but you just have to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. So is it fair to say, like, even if you make 100 phone calls and only one guy says yes, you know, it's not that you get that one guy, but say you do a service for that one person, for that one business owner, you're hoping that you get more referrals from that one person, right? Apart from your own social network, your own social bubble, from like your friends and family, previous jobs that you worked at, you know, counting on that one guy, providing the best service that you can so that you could get referrals. Because right, that in any service business really, whether it's landscaping, painting, digital marketing, as long as you do a really good job, I think that one person is going to give you a referral. And I think referrals like worth more than gold. And
Absolutely. I mean, there's two things about that. Number one is if you make 100 phone calls and you close one of them, you have to deliver the best damn service that you could possibly deliver to this one person, because this one person, they're taking a leap on you.
mm-hmm.
You know, you're not Apple, you're not giving an iPhone, you're not selling hotcakes out here. Like, you have an endeavor, and this person, whoever it is, whether you knew them before, is trusting you. So you need to basically drop everything that you're doing, you know, to an extent, still run your business, still reach out to try and get new clients, but you need to make sure that you treat this person like gold. Like, whatever you're telling them you're going to provide, you need to give them 300% of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do that, a lot of things happen. Is number one, there's an upsell opportunity. So if you're selling them an SEO package and you rank them on page 1 of Google, and then you tell them about digital ads that you do, they're going to assume that, you know, the iPhone is just as good as the MacBook, right? Like the products that you have to offer, and they're going to want the whole menu,
yeah.
right?
Wait,
So that's
provide
great.
context. Like, what does your business do in total, like in general? I know you generate leads, but do you do everything down to like SEO, Facebook marketing, pay-per-click ads, like all that type of fun stuff? Or do you kind of focus on one thing?
Yeah, well, the goal, it was kind of a debate that I was having internally when I started the company, is I didn't know if I wanted to niche down into one product and crush it,
Mm-hmm.
or if I wanted to become a full service agency. And what I realized is that I had the resources to be able to put together a full service. And what I mean by that is, again, if we talk about a barbershop, I can walk into a barbershop and say, anything that you need for your business online, on your phone or computer, whether it be social media, SEO, a website built, listings, reputation, you want to do review requests, review responses, anything at all, digital ads, Google ads, native ads, we do it all. And the reason we do that is because we see a lot more value in retaining clients than getting new clients. So I think that to a lot of entrepreneurs out there, it's a lot easier to have 20 clients forever that pay you every single month, $1,000 a month, than it is to sell 20,000 t-shirts and then having to do that the next month and the next month and the next.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I've been in both businesses. I've been in a ton of different business models, whether it be B2C, B2B, recurring, one-time payments, yearly payments, anything like that. For me personally, I've gotten very comfortable in the B2C monthly clientele, because I just like, that's the revenue model that I prefer. But yeah, we do everything. We're full service.
Okay, so in that full service, you know, that's a lot of stuff for one person. So then from that point forward, you started looking for a team, right?
Of course, yeah.
And that's where Lex came in as well?
Yeah, so Lex again, she's big on branding and graphics and stuff like that. So
The more creative side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. And so Lex is the head of our creative team. So, companies will come to us and they need a branding restoration. So they need new color palettes, color schemes, whatever, logos,
all the fun stuff,
banners, different things like that.
So what do you manage their social media and kind of like have like a nice sort of like page? Like these small businesses, they don't even have maybe an Instagram page. And if they do, just like 3 posts.
Yeah.
So did you kind of take care of all that, or kind of made it at least aesthetically more pleasing?
Well, yeah, on our creative team, we have fully managed, whether it be customer service through social media, or we do social posting multiple times a week, however many times we do, all the copywriting, boosting posts, reaching for engagement, things like that. We also do blog posting and blog writing for SEO, things like that. So again, anything that you could possibly imagine coming from a phone or a laptop for a business, we can do. We have a team for that.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a tough question, I think, for any small business owners hiring an agency, right? So, of course, SEO, blogging, all that type of stuff takes a while to kind of see a return on investment, right? Of course, if you do Facebook ads, you can get conversions or generations or lead gens almost immediately, right?
Yeah.
But if someone gets an SEO package and say, hey, I want my website to be ranked, that takes months and months because you have to put in a lot of content. How do you kind of tell these business owners, like, hey, it's going to take a while. You got to be patient before you kind of see results?
Yeah, that's definitely a tough hurdle to tackle. And I'm very impressed by that question. That's a great question. So one of the great things about True is that as a full service agency, we decided it would be best to have a dashboard to sign in. So just like you sign into your Facebook account, you go to trueleadgen.com, log in, you sign in, it's free to make an account. Once you log in, you have a dashboard, and on the left is all of your products and resource tabs. So some of the resource tabs that we decided to implement were, first and foremost, executive reporting. So before we work with a client, we have something called the snapshot report. And we basically run a deep MRI for your business, a scan of your online presence, and we show you a report card of how you're performing. Once we start working with these clients and we actually have something like ads running, or we have SEO keyword searches running right now for a client, they'd be able to look at a weekly or monthly executive report so they can look at how their business was performing in these areas prior to working with us and then post working with us, or while they're working with us, again, on a weekly and monthly level. So it's, again, things like listings. If you start working with us and you have 10 listings and then next week you have 30, it's very easy to grasp that. But things like SEO, that's where you have to be able to build a strong enough relationship with the client to say these things take time. And again, they just have to put their trust into you.
Mm-hmm. And when clients ask for, to be ranked or to have blogs, for example, in the e-commerce store, they want to have indirect sales coming from their Shopify, from their blog, because if they just rely on ads, then that's going to be very tough. However, if you have an article or multiple articles that you post, every day, then, and if you have like links to those blog posts, then that blog post is going to be on the web forever. Whereas these ads are just there for maybe a week, a month, depending on how much you spend, right? So are these kind of like e-commerce stores that you kind of work with that ask for these blog posts? Like what's your main clientele? I know you said B2C, but is it mainly all e-commerce?
It doesn't matter. We haven't niched down. I mean, A lot of the agency owners that I've talked to in the space, they specifically work with like a bar or like bars in the area. But I think that marketing is all the same. I think that every single ad that you see is really the same. Just like they say, every sale is the same. There's like an old saying in sales that like a mother trying to convince her 3-year-old to get in the bathtub is the same as a multi-millionaire businessman closing a deal. There's no difference in it at all. You just have a value proposition, you have a brand, whatever it is, and you have an audience. And the goal is just to put it in front of the audience. So e-commerce store podcaster like yourself. I've done some work for people that have a podcast too, to just reach more viewers, clothing companies, health and wellness supplements, a local bar, pizzerias, even short-term rental industry companies, specific like a cleaning certification company during COVID, all over, kind of well diversified in terms of industries.
Mm-hmm. So because you have like so much experience working across different industries, and people might say, hey, SEO isn't as important as creating a brand, an online presence on social media, or like SEO isn't as important, or building an email list isn't as important. But if you do all these things, it adds up. Is that like a recommendation that you think that's really important, that no matter what business that you're in, it's important to have content online, not just on social media, but in terms of like blog posts, have an email list, like those sort of things that are almost essential, you think, for any business owner?
I think that there's hardly any exceptions to that rule, that an email list is just as valuable to a coffee shop as it is to an e-commerce store.
Mm-hmm.
Again, all sales are the same. If a coffee shop is running a buy one get one free on ground coffee, and an e-commerce store has a deal on like a kid's toy, and it's buy one get one, it's an email list for somebody that's looking for that. There's no difference in it at all.
Okay.
I think that like a perfect world, if you were working at a firm that had an unlimited marketing budget, and the CMO walked into the meeting and said, we're going to put 100% of the budget towards SEO. I think the digital ads team, the reputation management team, the listing team, they'd all be scratching their heads. Doesn't matter what industry this company is in, but they'd all be very confused and very discouraged that the CMO is valuing one area over the other. A great marketing team balances everything. They don't value anything. And at True, we don't value anything over the other. But what we do specifically is, when we run our reports prior to working with these clients, is we look for areas of weakness, because most companies, whether they know it or not, whether they're aware of it or not, they're lacking in one or two areas more than the others. And so obviously it's more important to fix those gaps before you start, I guess, scaling if a coffee shop has a great blog, but they're not listed anywhere, that's a problem. So we're not going to really focus on the blog right now. It's doing great.
Okay.
We're going to make sure they're distributing their listings, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's because you have all these services, the full package. Do you have like virtual assistants, freelancers are working for you in your team?
Tons. Yeah. I think that any business that I've been a part of, virtual assistants are vital. We have a very, very, fun and casual culture at True Lead, and we make sure that everybody that has a part in the business, there's no seniority or anything. It's one team, and whether you're responding to the support email or trying to raise capital through big firms, it's all the same, one team.
Okay. And how do you manage, like, first of all, how big is your team, and how do you manage all those guys?
Well, the team's always changing. So in terms of a core team, we've only got a handful of people, but we've got tons of freelancers and virtual assistants that come and go. And in terms of managing, I think that consistent calls with the team, whether it's just conversation, group calls on Zoom, we try and do Mondays at 9. We do those and kind of recap the week before and plan for the week ahead. Slack as well. We just message each other all day through Slack. And then keeping it casual. I mean, we're a young firm, so just texting, FaceTiming, calling, catching up, whatever it is.
For sure. I think having that communication, even if you're halfway across the world, just being cool with the guys that you work with, because, uh, ideally you want to work with these guys for a long time, develop a relationship. It'll be kind of sucky to work with people that you don't know for a very long time. And if you establish a relationship, I think their work output would be much better. That's what happened to me. I think in like the pop art business, I had one guy drawing art, and of course I can look for other guys, but I felt really confident in this one guy. And because he had I guess, had a constant output of work with me at the time, he just felt very comfortable, and I think we worked a lot more efficiently and to establish a better relationship. Now, Lex, like now that you said that you're working as an intern, right? You seen this whole kind of entrepreneurship business go about. Has this kind of sparked like new ideas or like a new perspective on like what you wanted to do after graduation?
Definitely. So when I first started school, definitely in the program that we're in, they kind of push you towards more of a corporate side.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents are also entrepreneurs, and then my boyfriend being an entrepreneur, it's like all around me and almost in my blood. So like obviously with Dean and his company, it sparked me to want to create my own, and getting to see how he started his from the ground up. It's really awesome. And the lady that I work with my internship is also starting from the ground up. So I get to see the analytical marketing perspective, and I also get to see the like website HTML perspective as well.
Okay, but if you start your own thing, it has to be a little different. You don't want to be a direct
Oh, so
competitor.
I'm really thinking about doing a separate one. Just like lead through generation, maybe.
Yeah, maybe like focusing on the brand aspect of it, right?
Yeah, I'm not really sure yet.
Perhaps,
maybe.
yeah. The good thing is that, like we said earlier, like Lex is always trying different things. And I too, even as a founder of a company, you should always be trying different things. You never want to get complacent with anything. And who knows? I mean, maybe in a year from now, Lex realizes that pop art is her passion.
Coming after you.
No, I'm done with that.
Okay, fine. Or maybe next year I'll be his like top competitor.
That's
so
right.
Maybe I'll be on the podcast alone.
Hey, why not? But like, I feel if you don't have an established business and you start another one and you're dabbling with too many ideas, it could be overkill, right? However, if you have a business that's already having cash flow and you want to move on to not another one, but I guess start a new venture as well in parallel to what you're doing now, that works better, I think. What do you think? Like, do you think it's good to kind of have many ideas and start on all of those ideas at the same time, or kind of work on one thing first?
I think that it's very important to be able to innovate within a company. Okay. So there's something that I've been a victim of my whole life, and it's called the shiny object syndrome. When I'm super passionate about an e-commerce store that I'm building in April, and then May rolls around and now I'm an affiliate marketer, and then June rolls around and now I have an agency. And that's very dangerous because if you walk around a forest and you take a hard whack at every single tree that you see, after several days you'll just have a full forest of half axed down trees. You won't actually make any progress. And so I think that it's very important to stick with one tree for a long time, and then if you chop it down, or perhaps you want to do something else with it, I don't know, whatever. I don't know where I'm going with this example. You just chop down your tree, like stick with it. And so, for example, as an entrepreneur, as somebody that's as a student, whatever it is, as a young person that's striving to excel your career, you should always be educating yourself, whether it be podcasts, books. And the important thing about that is look at it through your lens. I think context is the most important aspect of self-education, because if I listen to a podcast about artificial intelligence, something like that, I can't fold the agency and say I want to work at Google tomorrow, because then the next podcast I listen to will make me do something else that's very extreme. And so, like, I listen to these podcasts and I think, ooh, that's a great idea. Let me, put a dog ear in that. And how can I, you know, how can I apply that to True Lead right now? Or how can I apply that to grow my personal brand? Or how can I maybe use that idea and make a viral TikTok or something? But it's very you have to apply it to your life and look through your lens always. So for you, Andres, as a podcaster, when you listen to somebody talking about a radio show, you shouldn't quit your podcast and try and start a radio show. You should think, how can I apply that to my podcast and my life personally?
Yeah, kind of integrate it into what you're doing already instead of starting a new thing entirely, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the better way to go about it. You want to be constantly innovating within your company and kind of have like new, fresh ideas, because you never know what's going to work. I mean, one idea might fail within your company, but the next idea might be, bring in a lot of revenue if it goes that well. Now, with working with a lot of businesses, what's one thing that you kind of focus on? Like, do you kind of focus on managing everyone, and you focus in then on the Facebook ads, or what? Because I know there's different segments that you're working on. What's like your day-to-day look like, your day-to-day operation?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's always changing. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you always have to be able to adapt and be uncomfortable. So the number one takeaway that I'd give you in terms of my day-to-day is that when you officially have a client, especially, and I'm not just talking about somebody that paid you to make their logo and then you design it and then that's it. I'm talking about if somebody's giving you a budget monthly and they're trusting you to be basically not just a client of yours, but a partner. Because if we're running your ads monthly, we're your marketing partners, and that's a huge responsibility. So learning from the great Jeff Bezos, he's been for the last 2 decades obsessed with his customers. It's a customer obsession. So as a founder, this business can't run without our clients. So I'm always meeting with my clients, whether that be in person, which is very limited now, obviously, but checking up on them on Zoom, seeing if there's anything that I can do for them, even if it's not in my job description. Remember, we want to deliver 300% of what we said. So if they need something, if you need to go the extra mile for them, that's your first priority. You should drop anything else that you're doing. Number 2 for me is growth. So just making sure that the sales team is running properly, making sure that we're filling up our calendars with leads, making sure that our own ads are running properly. And then number 3 is innovation within the company. I think always looking for new ways to improve our organic reach, our audience, whether it be improving the Facebook group, creating a blog for that day, making a LinkedIn post myself, or posting a TikTok. There's a lot of value in that, and becoming every day one step closer to being the mediator of the conversation of digital marketing on the internet is invaluable.
Yeah, I feel some people might say it's important to know everything within your business so that if everyone leaves for whatever reason and you're left alone, you still know how to do everything. Is that the truth in your case, where like you know how to do the SEO, the lead generation, social media marketing, like all that fun stuff if you were just left alone in your business?
Yeah, you have to. And you also have to have humility too. Like, I know a lot of founders that are way too comfortable with saying crazy things like, I would never post a TikTok for my company. I'd have an intern do that for me. And that's just humiliating. Like, it's a disgrace because, if you have a corporate office and there's dirt on the floor, are you just going to leave it there because you're the CEO? You should be doing everything. Excuse me, everything from, washing the windows of your office and sweeping all the way up to raising capital, fulfillment, sales. If your sales team is making 30 cold calls a day, you should make 40 the next day. I think one lesson I learned from Gary Vee is that when asked about how he keeps his team so motivated. It's that he claims that none of his 1,000+ employees would work even close to how hard he works. And so it's leading by example and teaching, not really preaching. So if there's an area of the business that you're not too confident in, which is okay as a founder to be able to say, talk to an expert on your team, whether it be in lead gen, and pick their brain and learn from them. I think that's huge and very, very, very important for your company.
Yeah, it's so true that, you have like your business is your baby. No one's going to work as hard as you, and no one shouldn't, because it's not their business. And, some business owners might want all their employees to work just as hard as them, but it's not going to happen because they don't have that same emotional attachment to that business. Right.
Right.
And it's all about, that's the thing with, I guess, owning a business. You have to know your stuff, but you also know how to be emotionally connected with the people that you work with. So it's a lot of variables that, as a business owner, especially in the service business, you got to take care of. You're dealing with so many people and so many emotions that, they look up to you and they make sure that everything's fine. And I can see why it's like very, very difficult for any like business owner in digital marketing, in the digital marketing space to, I guess, run it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. What's like several key insights that you kind of like are amazed about? I feel like if you work with so many different businesses, you're like, damn, like that's something that's pretty cool that I'm pretty sure other business owners in that sector would like to learn about. For example, if you work with a pizzeria and for whatever reason, a couple blog posts or their email marketing campaign worked very well, that you kind of recommend to other pizzerias around the country to do the same? Like, is there any key insights in any business sector that you kind of took away?
That's a great question. I think that one thing that comes to mind is that you should never write off a crazy idea until you try it, especially with paid advertisements. And the example that I'll give you is that we worked with a company that was selling like cosmetics for women, and the initial instinct when you set up that ad campaign is to target women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that immediately cuts off all of the men on Facebook. And so just because we always start our campaigns off as broad as possible, all genders, 18 to 65 plus, all over the world, with exceptions to like China and India. That's what we always do. And so we saw this crazy spike in an area that we were very, very confused about. And what actually outperformed any ad set that had women targeted was men by 20 times. And the reason being was that the copywriting we were using was about buying the makeup and the cosmetic product for women was buying the product for your mom or for your girlfriend or for your sister. And so that was fascinating to us because you can't jump the gun. You can't make assumptions even as obvious as they might seem, because as smart as you might think you are and as good of a marketer as you might think you are, you don't have nearly the pulse on what consumers want as Facebook itself. And so when you take an approach that you know nothing and Facebook knows everything and just look at the analytics instead of your previous beliefs and your, what you would assume would work, then you start to see amazing things happen.
So you can't be scared to try new things, right?
Can't be scared to try it. If you are, if you have a coffee shop and you want to run ads, don't target people that like coffee. Target people that like, broad, and then look at the analytics, and maybe you'll see this weird, unknown, like untapped correlation between frozen foods and coffee. Who knows? And then you could capitalize, and then you can scale your business.
So in that respect, you can't be afraid to either like spend on Facebook ads either, because, I think the first couple of ad sets, you're not going to make a return on investment. It's all about getting that data and then reiterating or I guess taking that approach to the next level to use that data and make the best ad possible to get the ROI that you're looking for, right?
Sure. Yeah. A lot of people are quick to say, I wasted $300 on Facebook ads. But what you do, every dollar that you spend on Facebook ads or Google ads, whatever it is you're simply just buying data from Facebook. So if you spend $300 on Facebook ads and you don't make a sale, don't get discouraged. You've just bought $300 worth of very, very valuable information about your product and your brand and your business. So look at it, take a look at it and see, maybe you see something that paves the way for you. I mean, just because you didn't make a sale on that campaign doesn't mean that your business is a failure. It's a bust,
Mm-hmm. And now looking back from when you first started, you said you started, 13 months ago?
I started the agency 13 months ago, correct?
Okay. And looking back, like how have you kind of progressed since the first initial idea or start?
Yeah, well, it's been a hell of a year, definitely, I think, for everyone. But in terms of the agency, I mean, we went from nothing to something, and I think that what Lex and I talk about every day is like if you try one more time, you won't fail, and we just stay positive. We support each other. We've got a tight friend group that just loves each other, and at the end of the day, like, if you just keep pushing towards your goals, there's no better opportunity in life than that, is that we get to wake up every day and try and create something out of ourselves and do what we love. And yeah, and it's exciting because we are so young at the end of the day, and that's a special thing. So.
Yeah, and it's important that you stuck with it. I feel like you said, a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to move on to the next thing after 3 months if it doesn't work out. And of course, that's not always the case. It might take you 6 months, a year to see maybe some result. But as long as you stick with it, and if you're really happy about what your business is, again, going back to your passion, you're not afraid to kind of fail. As long as you're working on something that you love, you're going to keep on working on it. Mm-hmm. And then eventually time will show that you're going to get some results one way or another.
And to all the entrepreneurs out there that are going through a tough time and, are thinking about throwing in the towel, whatever it is, like, every entrepreneur has something in common. And that's that one day they decided to start the business, whether they have a specific date, like a business anniversary, whatever it is, or it was just, a week long or a couple week long thing where they had this idea. And one day they finally decided to buy that domain name and to, make that Instagram account and to put up that post and to reach out to that supplier to make their dreams come true. And so, like, if you did it that day, you did it with full intentions that you were going to stick with it through thick and thin. And so I wouldn't be so quick to move on to the next thing and give up, because, like, you have to understand that what shows is not the daily losses and the daily wins. What shows is the full picture, the culmination. Like, maybe there were more days that I lost or like failed than won, but at the end of the day, from where I was 13 months ago to today, I have something that's moving in a positive direction, and that's all that matters. It's like the stock market, it goes down, up, down, up, down, up. But at the end of the day, when you zoom out and see the big picture of Amazon, 20 years, it's going up, and that's all that matters.
And even in this day and age, I feel like there's plenty of people that are like, let me go viral in terms of like social media, and it's awesome, but it's not really practical, and that's something we also always talk about. But I think if you just like continue with it, then eventually it's more of a story to start from the ground up and reach to the point that you want to get to, rather than being an overnight sensation because you don't appreciate it as much.
Yes, true. And like we said, on social media, we see everyone killing it. We can't really tell if they put in that work or they got lucky after 6 months. Everyone has their own story. And yeah, if you kind of, I guess, like that example that you put, Dean, if you look at the stock market and I guess you replace that with your life and see the bigger picture, even though your progress might be kind of like a plateau, if you kind of zoom out, in reality, there's an upward trend, and it might be hard to see that, but you can't really see it unless you actually put in that time and not just 2-3 months. You got to put more, right?
Exactly. It's all about perception. That's it.
For sure, man. So Dean and Lex, I don't want to take too much of your time. So if people want to find you, hit you up, look at True Lead, where can they find that? And where can they find you?
Yeah, anybody listening to this, if you want to reach out to me, shoot me a DM. I'd be happy to help you out, whatever you're doing. It's just Dean T Pagano, DEANT letter PAGANO on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, TikTok. And then, True Lead is in my bio for my personal account, so you could check it out there. And then
mine's just Lex Katerina. If you want to follow me, ask me any questions, I'd be more than happy to give you some advice as well.
Cool. Yeah. And you also have your own podcast too, right, Dean?
Yeah, it's Dean TV. It's also, if you go to my Instagram, you can see anything that I'm up to over there, which is great. But yeah, check it out. And, even if anybody's listening to this, they're local business owners here, in the Northeast, let us know, and we'd be happy to help, link up, whatever it is, any advice. When you reached out to me about this podcast, it was super cool. And I'm always happy to come on and just chat with new people and meet people, and stuff like this is awesome. So, to you too, Andres, keep doing your thing, man. I respect the hustle and the cold DMs. I know the grind. It's a lot of people just leaving you on red, but keep doing it, man. Cause opportunities, like, people, it's out there. The opportunities are out there. It's not going to come to you. You got to go out and get it yourself. So I respect.
For sure. And I always see it as a win-win-win scenario, because of course I learn from you guys. You guys get to put out your value, and people hopefully listen to you and start to follow you. And of course the audience, they learn as well. So I always try to see this as a huge positive for everyone. So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely add all those links and to the show notes. So if anyone wants to check you guys out. And yeah, man, I really do appreciate you guys being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll notify once the podcast is uploaded as well, right?
Perfect.
All right, cool guys. So enjoy the weekend, and I really do appreciate it, all right?
Thank you, Andres. Thanks for having us.